What is going on, everybody? I am back from my 3-mile first run in the Nike Zoom Fly 6. So here are my first impressions. So to give y'all a little bit of context, I have ran in the Nike Zoom Fly 5, which was the predecessor for this model. And let me just say, honestly, I thought it was trash. I really did not like the past model of this shoe just because it felt like a brick. It felt like it wasn't super responsive. It was kind of heavy. The mesh on the upper didn't really feel too soft and breathable, and it was a little bit on the thick side, but I can ramble on and on why I don't like the Zoom Fly 5. So when the Zoom Fly 6 came out, I saw that it was a complete redesign. It looked really good from the pictures. It kind of looks like a budget Alpha Fly, so it got me really intrigued to try the model. So I have them in hand. I actually just ran 3 miles in them just to give you guys my first thoughts and impressions on them, and let me just say, this is a completely different shoe. So as always, we are going to start off with the outsole of the shoe. Looks like a traditional Nike waffle pattern on the outsole, and I ran in a pretty dry weather condition on the road and I didn't have any problems with these. I am interested to see how these would perform kind of like on gravel instead of, you know, a road pavement, as well as maybe in the rain. I have a feeling that it's not gonna do too well in those conditions, but me living in California, I'm pretty much gonna test these shoes in whatever weather conditions I'm currently having, and they held up really fine on the first run. Now, touching on durability of the outsole, just from the touch, it feels like a little bit of a harder rubber, maybe similar to the Pegasus 41 that I have. So I'm expecting durability for this shoe to be pretty solid, and the thickness of the outsole looks pretty standard in my opinion. Now, moving on to the midsole of the Zoom Fly 6, we have a full-length Zoom X. I think there was something about how like the lower foam was not exactly Zoom X. It was maybe a different compound that was a little bit more stable, but I could be totally wrong. I believe the stack height also is above the legal limit of 40 millimeters in the heel. I believe it's 42 millimeters with a 8 millimeter heel to toe drop, giving it a 34 millimeter stack height in the forefoot. That in combination with a full length plate, I'll have to double check if it's carbon plated or plastic plated, but enough with the specs. I'm just gonna tell you how these felt. In my opinion, these felt very, very aggressive. It's an interesting experience because it is a pretty soft foam from the touch. Like when I was walking around in these and I was trying them on, I was like, wow, this is gonna be a super comfortable shoe. It seems like it's gonna do well in slower paces, and obviously it having a plate inside, and the whole product line seems to cater more towards a faster run, or, you know, fast, longer runs, maybe tempo workouts. I thought it was gonna be interesting how the foam would adapt when I started running, and let me just tell you, it felt really good. It's one of those shoes that you feel like you want to run fast in, if that makes sense. And that's where I say the aggressive part comes from, because it's not necessarily super bouncy or super responsive, but I think just the geometry of the heel being so curved, as well as the softness of the Zoom X foam with that plate, it just kind of, I don't know, it kind of propels you forward. It's a very interesting experience because it doesn't feel the softest, it also doesn't feel the most firm. It's like that nice blend of soft but also still being firm that kind of propels you forward. And I know that's a very interesting thing to say about a midsole, but hopefully I'll be able to articulate it a little bit better once I put more miles on the shoe, as well as once I do a long run in this shoe. Now, speaking of the cushioning, besides it feeling really good at the slow paces, as well as when I picked up the pace because I felt that the shoe kind of pushed me a little bit, I want to talk about stability, which I think is going to be the major con or the more downside of the shoe. It's not going to be for everyone because I think that this shoe is a little bit not stable. That comes down to the width. So the width of the shoe, as you can see, the heel is not the most wide. Some other shoes that I have, and the one that comes to my mind is the More V5. Obviously they're completely different shoes, but the base of the shoe is a lot wider in the heel, as well as a lot wider in the forefoot. The forefoot of the Zoom Fly 6 actually is pretty decently wide, but I think for my overpronating friends and my friends that love stability shoes, I just don't know if this shoe is going to be right for you, because I think that the foam in this shoe is a little bit on the softer side, paired with that more narrow heel. I think it's going to cause a little bit of issues, and I think that there are more supportive plated daily trainers on the market or plated super trainers on the market. So that's gonna be something to look out for if you are considering the shoe and you're a little bit of an overpronator, or you just like the feeling of a little bit more stability in your running shoes. I think that that's gonna be a major con for the Zoom Fly 6. Now moving on to the upper, Zoom Fly 6 has a interesting kind of plasticky mesh feeling upper, but it's a lot softer than last year's model, and as you can see, I'm kind of messing around with it. It just feels a little bit thinner as well as softer. It didn't require any break-in period. I didn't have any hot spots when I tried on the shoe and while I was running in the shoe. I will say that something that stuck out to me was, even though it was super cold outside, California cold, I didn't feel too much ventilation or breeze through my toes. So I don't think ventilation in this shoe is going to be anything crazy. If I do the quick light test, there is some light shining through the shoe, but I wouldn't say it's above average or anything. I would say it's maybe below average to average. So if ventilation is important to you, that's something to note. As for fit, I would say that these run true to your Nike size. Nikes tend to be a little bit more narrow and a little bit more snug fitting, but for me, I have a size 12, which is my true size that I get in all Nike shoes and all running shoes, and these fit me perfectly fine. My heel was locked in. I did the runner's loop paired with the gusseted tongue. The gusseted tongue didn't really move around. I didn't feel the laces biting into my ankles, which is always a good sign, and the forefoot felt like I had enough room for my little bunion on my pinky toe, so the fit was pretty good. I wouldn't say that it was as good as maybe New Balance 1080 V14 or New Balance More V5. Those are my, I guess, goats for fit when it comes to running shoes, but it did fit above average in my opinion. I do prefer a more snug running shoe, and I think that this provides that really well while still being true to size and keeping you fully supported when it comes to the upper. So that's gonna pretty much wrap up my first impressions after my first run on the Zoom Fly 6. Obviously this is by no means a full review, and I will be putting in more miles, especially a long run, to see how these shoes hold up, and I will be able to give you guys my final thoughts and conclusions when that comes out, or when I'm able to put more miles on this shoe. But overall first impressions, I think Nike has a winner. Again, besides that small point about the stability, I think that a lot of people are going to enjoy the shoe. So if you were thinking about purchasing this shoe and just wanted a little bit of confirmation from a first run review, you're gonna get it from me. I think that this is gonna be a good performer, but like I said, I'm gonna put more miles on the shoe, so stay tuned for the full review. I should be able to get that out in about a week. I'm just finishing up reviewing the Magic Speed 4. I still have to do a long run in those, and then I will get that video out. And then once I get some more miles in these, I will, get that video out. So you guys kind of get the point. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for those full reviews coming soon. Really appreciate you guys watching the videos, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.